driveway or your sidewalk this afternoon, just make sure you're ready for the cold because you'll get frostbite pretty quick in those kind of conditions.
And so basically what we're seeing for the next couple of days are this will clear, we'll have more sunshine, but it'll be extremely cold.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
And also don't be fooled by the just because the sun's out doesn't mean the roads are gonna it's gonna instantly melt away. It'll still be dangerous conditions out on the roads. And your sidewalk, never mind driving in your car, you don't want to fall on your way to your car and bust your forearm or something.
Right. Right. All right. So quick recap if you're just joining us on YouTube or Facebook. This is Ocean City. This is one of our photojournalists in the car right there on the roads, which don't look very clear, which is a wonder. They're not really ready for this.
I wonder about coastal communities that are basically resort towns and people don't really live there year round. Like, do they plow if it snows? Like, I mean, there are still people that live there and there are still businesses, but it's such a minor amount of people that you would think there wouldn't be the inventory down there.
True. Maybe some of you know if you have property there or you go there for the summers. I'm actually not as familiar with Ocean City. I don't really get down there much, but
I mean, it's rare that they probably get this much snow.
Right. But anyway, it's been an interesting morning. So this all started super early. I remember walking out in it early morning and
3, 4 o'clock here in the city, and then we're watching it wind down. And again, for us locally, the snow's not going to be the big story. I think the wind and the cold behind it really will become the big story. But maybe we'll get our chance later this winter. Seems like
is anything down the pipe? I mean, everything changes all the time, right? But
so long term here in the next couple of weeks, I think it'll be noticeably warmer next week, and there are some indications we might even be a little above normal temperature wise by the middle of the month.
We climb out of this Arctic blast by Monday, like really
out of the severe cold.
Yeah, we do, and it kind of just looks normal cold, not
right. But you know what?
Oh, great.
42 degrees is going to feel like tropics.
It is.
Yes.
It is. So we're going into...
So we don't have any big snows in our forecast. It kind of looks like we moderate. This was not our big storm here in D.C. Who's to say if we might get one later this winter? We're not sure, but there's nothing in the immediate forecast.
Okay. So. Sounds good. Thanks for wrapping it up, guys. Tucker and Caitlin from our newsroom. We're going to leave you with this cool shot because they're still driving through, and it's pretty cool to see. So something you don't see often in Ocean City, Maryland. So we'll leave you with this for now. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day.
Hi guys, if you are just joining us on YouTube or Facebook or whatever platform you're watching us on, I'm here with Caroline in the newsroom, and we're watching this continued multi-hour drive from Ocean City, Maryland, where our reporter Cori Coffin was out there in the blizzard this morning, way back in the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock hour, and she saw a pretty good-sized winter storm out there on the coast. Like we said, this bomb cyclone heading all the way up the eastern seaboard, New England seeing 8 to 14 inches of snow this morning, and this obviously is sort of a rare view on the coastline here in Ocean City, Maryland. So in just a moment, when we can connect with her, we are actually going to get her on Skype or on the phone to kind of chat with us about what she's seeing and what she saw earlier this morning. Obviously, you can tell it's kind of tapered off. We gave you sort of a rundown of what has happened this morning and how things are going to clear up, especially inland where we are. But you can see there, the sky is still very ominous looking. There's tons of snow, not very efficient plowing job there, obviously, because this is mostly a place for people to kind of get away and not live year round. But we will hear sort of more detail from her about what she's been seeing and sort of what they expect to see, because they have a few hours to go before they even return here. So this shot is kind of staying right here, and it's pretty interesting to see. So again, we'll connect with her in just a moment, so stay on with us for that, and we'll bring her up live for you guys to get the rundown on the snow this morning. All right, guys, so it's been a little bit of a struggle to get Cori on the phone. I know some of you guys have been waiting to kind of get some little rundown of sort of what was happening in Ocean City. She was in this massive winter storm this morning, and the footage is really just amazing. You can see here the car ride continues, and if we do get her on the phone, we're going to bring you to her to kind of elaborate more on what she saw. But first, let's go up to New York. Guys, we're going to see what's going on there because they're prepping for even more of a storm than we're seeing down here, and they have some security measures in place and other notable things that they're talking about right from New York City regards to this bomb cyclone. So let's go to New York and change it up just a little bit, and then we'll come back down here to Maryland.
Be able to work the smaller streets in many parts of the city, including in areas like Corona, Queens, where I was, and I saw those smaller plows in action. They're really doing great work, and they're reaching a lot of places that were unreachable in the past, so I think this is going to help a lot. You're not going to see pavement on the roads in the short term. The intensity of the storm is too great right now. There's too much snow coming down to expect to see blacktop right away. And we've got really tough conditions, too, in terms of the impact of the salt. When it's this cold, the salt doesn't have as much effect. We expect these very low temperatures to continue. So I want all New Yorkers to have a little bit of patience with the fact that despite the great work of sanitation, it's going to be a while before you see the blacktop in some parts of the city. In terms of other precautions, we're taking Code Blue is in effect and will be around the clock because of the extremely cold temperatures, so we'll be looking to make sure anyone out on the street is safe. Also, some updates on transportation. We are suspending New York City ferry service at noon today. Our expectation is that it will be up and running for the morning commute on all lines, but it will be suspended on all lines as of noon today. Staten Island ferry service is running as normal. It's on a midday schedule now. We expect that to continue at this point. And as you know, MTA service is all running. Also, in terms of transportation, both LaGuardia and JFK do not have flights going in or out at this point. Want to emphasize to everyone, these are very, very dangerous conditions. So this is where New Yorkers have choices to make, and I want people to make the smart choices. Stay inside if you can. If you do not need to be on the roads, don't be on the roads. That's both for your own safety and to allow the sanitation workers to do their work so they can clear the roads for everyone else's safety. If you go out for as little time as possible. If you have to walk somewhere, bundle up, take precautions because it's bitterly cold, and with the wind, it's even worse. Driving conditions are going to be tough today. They'll certainly be tough for the next few days because we don't expect to see a lot of melting. So there will be a lot of ice out there, and again, the high winds will continue certainly throughout today and into tomorrow. We're talking about gusts of up to 50 miles an hour. So whether you're driving, whether you're walking, tough conditions. Stay inside to the maximum extent possible. Don't go outside if you don't need to. Use mass transit if at all possible. We expect a tough evening commute. So again, if you can take mass transit, that's better. If you have to use your car to come back home in the evening, leave time, go slow. Take it slow because these are really treacherous conditions. Looking ahead, we, at this moment, expect school to be open tomorrow, Friday. We'll have updates later in the day, but given that the storm is expected to abate in the next few hours, essentially, we do expect school to be open. And an update on alternate side parking. It will be canceled both. It's canceled today, of course. It'll be canceled both tomorrow and Saturday. So again, if you can leave your car and not have to move it around, please leave it in place. So we expect tough conditions for days to come, particularly in terms of the cold. This is a very sobering reality. It's really going to be cold all the way through Sunday. National Weather Service told me that on Friday and Saturday night, when you take the temperature and then the wind chill, we expect the temperature outside to feel like -20. So National Weather Service is projecting a temperature of give or take 0 and then still strong winds. call 311 right away. I want to remind people this. If your building management is not responding to the situation immediately, you got to call 311. We will either make sure the building management fixes the problem, or we will send city personnel to restore the heat and hot water, and we will charge the building management for it. But either way, we have got to get everyone's heat and hot water up and running. We can only do that if you report to us if there's a problem. Also want to remind people, when it's this cold, sometimes people try to find informal means to stay warm. That can be dangerous. Be careful with extension cords, with heaters, or leaving an oven door open, or using candles. Anything like that can be a danger. Please take precautions. Most importantly, again, if you're having a fundamental heating problem, let the city know so we can act on it. If you see anyone in danger on the street, anyone who's homeless or in other distress and needs help, you can call 311. If it's not an immediate emergency, if it looks like a life and death situation, of course, call 911. We're going to keep you updated. There will be more news in the course of the day, but the most important thing is stay indoors, take precautions, look out for your fellow New Yorkers. Just a few words in Spanish. Estamos ante una severa y muy peligrosa tormenta de nieve. Estamos tomando todas las medidas de seguridad necesarias y pedimos a todos que hagan lo mismo. Quédense en sus casas, usen transporte público si tienen que salir y cuiden a los vecinos que necesitan ayuda. Look out for your neighbors. Check in on any neighbors that may need help, particularly folks who are older or have any sicknesses. Let's look out for each other. With that, I want to turn to a couple of my colleagues in the administration to speak. I also want to give a special thank you to our new Deputy Mayor for Operations, Laura Anglin, who just a few days on the job now is coordinating this overall response to the storm. I want to thank her for her great efforts. Now my pleasure to introduce our Commissioner for Emergency Management, Joe Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city's Emergency Operations Center has been activated since last night with a dozen of our agency partners working on the response to this storm, and the center will stay open until the storm is over, probably right through the weekend. We've been hosting daily interagency conference calls with the city, state agencies, and public and private partners to coordinate preparation and response to this storm. We're in constant communication with National Weather Service to provide forecast updates. We just hung up with them about a few minutes ago. We placed several task forces on standby, including our tow truck task force and our down tree task force. We think with these winds, we may be activating both those task forces. We have more than 140 tow trucks available throughout the city to help clear stuck vehicles off the roadway. But we do encourage people to try and stay off the roadways as much as possible. There are some restrictions. Verrazano has banned trucks at this point. Also have emergency management personnel and City Hall folks deployed across the 5 boroughs to help provide information about conditions throughout the city to coordinate our efforts. We are going, if you're going to go out to shovel, please use common sense. You know, if you have any medical condition, get the local kids to shovel for you. Don't do it yourself. But it's important to shovel as soon as you can once the snow does stop, because with this cold weather, as the mayor indicated, it can be around 0 for the next few days. If you don't shovel, it'll be a sheet of ice in front of your house, and that's going to create dangerous conditions. So try and get out there if you possibly can. But again, consider hiring some local kids to do it. So I find that's always the best way. For information and updates related to the weather and travel conditions, sign up for Notify NYC. Is the best way to get up-to-date information. It's free. It's the city's free emergency notification system, or you can call 311, and you could sign up for Notify NYC through calling 311. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. And now our Sanitation Commissioner, Catherine Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the mayor said, we have had all of our employees on split shifts since last night at 7 p.m. We currently have over 2,400 plows, spreaders. We've started to roll out some of our front-end loaders. We have been added to our capacity from DOT, DEP, and the Parks Department. I want to thank them. And again, as the mayor said, we do not anticipate, given these very, very cold temperatures, that we are going to see blacktop. We are operating aggressively across all 5 boroughs. We have completed passes on nearly every street since the start of shift change this morning when plowing began. But because we are going to get very little traction out of the salt, we do not anticipate seeing blacktop. In addition, I really do encourage people to stay off the roads. One of the biggest challenges that we've had this morning so far is people who have gotten into accidents and impeded our ability to move forward. We've had a lot of assistance from PD helping us keep all of our spreaders and plows moving. But right at this moment, we are anticipating that we could be seeing 3 inches of snow an hour over the next few minutes. So we anticipate that that will continue to impede our operations in terms of the fact that they are driving in basically whiteout blizzard conditions. But we will stay in split shifts until we are through this, and we anticipate we will have to work through icy conditions tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. All right, ready to take your questions about this emergency and the city's response back there.
Mayor, how many accidents you guys seen this morning, and any reports of injuries or slips and falls? Do you have any of those numbers?
Okay, between fire, PD, you got it, Terry?
They're actually down in accidents, 86 vehicle accidents so far today, all minor, basically bumper-to-bumper sort of accidents, down from 135 at the same point last year. So accidents are down. I think less people are on the road.
Good, good. Okay. Okay, questions? Yes.
I know you're encouraging people to take mass transit, but what should people expect, like for the buses especially, you know, really significant delays, would you say, and for the subways as well? What can
I think MTA is here. Yes, let's give him a update directly.
Yeah, considering the conditions and the coordination and planning that we've done over the last few days, I'm happy to report that we are holding our own both on the bus and subway side. But, you know, as it has been said earlier, we should expect some weather-related delays.
So basically keeping the schedule at this point. You know, it's right for people to assume some delays, leave extra time, obviously. But so far, the MTA is doing a great job keeping things going.
Two things. Given the conditions today, do you feel, I guess, vindicated, if you will, about your decision yesterday to go ahead and close the schools today because it is so bad? And the second thing is, what does the winter weather emergency give you the ability, or the police department, to do? What does that actually mean?
Sure. On the second point, it allows us to go and do the kinds of things we need to do to keep the streets clear. And the most obvious example is to go ahead and do towing of any vehicles that are deemed to be in the way of plowing operations. Now, again, if you park normally, you're not going to have a problem. But if you leave a car in a position that's going to block the plowing operations, if you block a road during plowing by like double parking too long or things like that, we're not going to be polite about that. We have to keep things moving, and it's making sure people understand that we're going to take action very resolutely. And it also encompasses a lot of the things that we've already acted on in terms of the closure of the schools, for example, and other actions that are unusual in this situation. It's simply a catch-all that makes clear the city will do anything it needs to do at this point to preserve public safety. The first question, I'm sorry, look, Dave, I respect the question. I would not choose that word because I don't think that's what this is about. The question is, when you make one of these decisions, I've had to make this decision a number of times, take the information we get from the National Weather Service, do our best to anticipate the unanticipated. This is something we learned a couple times the hard way. I learned by experience a few times that we heard an early estimate of what the level of snow would be, and then it jumped up quite a bit. You remember the biggest blizzard we had a day or two out was still being estimated at 8 to 10 inches, ended up being something like 27, 28 inches. So, experience has now taught me, try and think a few jumps ahead about where something might go. So yesterday morning, it was already clear that the upper end projections were really troubling here, and that we would have the snow potentially hitting at its hardest right at the time the kids would be going to school. When we factored in that, plus the wind dynamics and the cold, I felt very confident about the decision. But again, no one can make these decisions with perfect information. You have to do your best to take the history and take the best information we have from National Weather Service, and then be decisive about what will be the best action in terms of protecting our kids and all the people who work in our schools, and obviously taking the needs of parents into mind as well. Questions? Yes?
Yeah, Mayor, discussed people who are without heat or hot water at this time. There have been some issues in a couple of NYCHA developments, the Redfern houses in particular. Can you give us an update on what's going on for people who are in NYCHA who may be having issues with their heat?
Yeah, I'm going to bring forward Michael Kelly, who's the general manager of NYCHA. I want to emphasize the challenge in our public housing buildings is that these are older buildings that honestly for decades did not get the kind of investment and maintenance they deserved. A lot of times the folks who work at NYCHA are trying to hold together something that really should have gotten investment a long time ago. That being said, the standard I hold, and I talk frequently with the leadership at NYCHA about this, is notwithstanding that reality, each time we've got to get the heat back on, and we've got to take whatever extraordinary actions will allow us to get the heat back on. So right now, Michael's going to give you the update.
Thank you for the question. At Redfern right now, the heat is operational. We have a 24-hour watch to ensure that mobile boiler is in operation. So if it should go down again, we're in a position to respond to it directly. And we are monitoring all the NYCHA sites as we speak right now with roving teams and with the response as quickly as we can get to them.
So just give the update on where you are in the other buildings.
Right as we speak, there's one development that's out. It's at Woodside in Queens. It's affecting about 1,300 apartments. It's a gas issue, and we're working with our partners at National Grid to respond as we speak. We have staff on the ground, and there are two buildings that are out as we speak. One, the Lower East Side Rehab, that's about 22 units, and one at Jefferson in Manhattan, 108 units. Both of those staff is on site working as well.
Thank you very much.
Is there a sense of, I mean, does it take a long time to get these buildings hot again? I mean, I know they're big buildings. You know, is there any concern about how long people will be waiting or anything that's being done to?
Our normal response time is about 2 hours. Through this crisis, we're about a 5-hour period here. We are finding, though, because of the nature of the NYCHA.
All right, guys, we're back in the newsroom here. It's Molly and Caroline in our digital newsroom here at Fox 5. We're just getting some video in of playback of President Trump making some comments just moments ago from the White House, and we're told that he made some comments on Steve Bannon, which, as you know, that has been sort of in the news in the past couple of days with the book being released by Michael Wolff and opening up some comments from his former staffers and current staffers. And apparently he had some comment and reaction to that. We're going to go to that playback now so you can kind of listen in to what President Trump had to say just moments ago.
You saw that recently in New York along the West Side Highway. We need a physical border wall. We're going to have a wall. Remember that. We're going to have a wall to keep out deadly drug dealers, dangerous traffickers, and violent criminal cartels. Mexico's having a tremendous problem with crime, and we want to keep it out of our country. We need to ensure our immigration officers finally have the resources, tools, and authorities that they desperately deserve and need to save and protect American lives. Even the Border Patrol agents, as you saw recently, killed. A couple of them killed, one very badly hurt. It's a rough job, and they're incredible people, along with the ICE agents. These are incredible people. They've been with me right from the beginning, and they love what we're doing. That's why our position has been clear and very clear from the beginning. Any legislation on DACA must secure the border with a wall. It must give our immigration officers the resources they need to stop illegal immigration and also to stop visa overstays. And crucially, the legislation must end chain migration. It must end the visa lottery. Dangerous, and I think many of the Democrats agree with us on that now. The lottery system is a disaster. Tom and I talk about it all the time. They put down their probably worst people, who knows, but they're not looking to get rid of their best people. So they put their worst people in a hopper, and we're picking out the people. And then we find out, what do we have? It's not a good situation, so we're going to end it. The lottery system has to be laughed at by countries outside of our country when they send these people in. I want to thank the senators for working with us because it really has been a very collaborative effort. We are, believe it or not, working also with Democrats. I think that's correct, right, Tom? We're moving across the aisle and trying to get support, and I think we have a lot of support, but we'll soon see. Would love to take care of DACA, but we're only going to do it under these conditions. So we appreciate it very much. Mr. Vice President, do you have anything to say? Mike?
Mr. President, you've made immigration a centerpiece in the national debate over the last year and a half. But you said all along the way, we're going to build a wall. We're going to reform our immigration system. We're going to enforce the laws of this country for the citizens of this country. But you also said along the way that we're going to do it with a big heart. And you've opened the door to an agreement on DACA, and today is part of an ongoing discussion with these Republican leaders, but also with Democrats on Capitol Hill to accomplish that, and I look forward to being a part of it.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. And Senator Grassley, anything to say?
Of course, where you said we were here, I think with you on November the 8th, we set out a program that we all agreed to here. We know that there has to be negotiations in regard to that, but you've laid out some principles that we will not compromise on.
Thank you. And you've been a great voice in a lot of different ways, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Lindsay used to be a great enemy of mine. Now he's a great friend of mine. I really like Lindsay. Can you believe it? I never thought I'd say that, but I do like him a lot.
Thank you. I like me too, so we got something coming already.
We all know that.
Obama couldn't do it. Bush couldn't do it. I think you can do it. There's a deal to be had. If you want it bad enough, we'll get it. It'll be good for the country. Everybody's got to give a little bit. But I've never been more optimistic about an immigration reform proposal making it to the president's desk than I am right now.
I think we have a good chance. Tom Cotton.
Thank you for having us, Mr. President. As Senator Graham said, I think there's a deal to be had here. The President made clear that he wants to provide some kind of protections for those who receive the DACA work permits, but at the same time, we have to deal with the negative consequences of that. We have to end chain migration to prevent a future set of new chain migrants coming, and we have to secure our border. We have to enforce our laws on the interior as well to decrease the illegal immigration that will inevitably encourage overseas. The President and our group have been clear on that from the very beginning, and I hope the Democrats will sit down with us and finally take yes for an answer on it.
I think we've got a good shot. I really do. Tom, anything?
Mr. President, I just want to say exactly what Lindsay did. If you think about in the Obama administration, when you had the votes to pass Obamacare and you couldn't get the DREAM Act passed, then you know there's something structurally wrong with just the baseline. I mean, if you just think about it, you're providing the leadership to come up with a balance where you're going to produce a bipartisan solution, and a solution that's consistent with your principles, which I think are important for us to fulfill the promises that we made to the American people. And we can provide certainty to the DACA population. And shame on anybody for getting caught up in words. The wall, for example, right. When we've got the opportunity to provide a solution, achieve your objectives, and do something good for the DACA population, that I think we should.
Thank you, Tom, very much. You're right, 100%. Tom?
Mr. President, thanks for bringing all this together. I'd mentioned to you in September when you first made the announcement about DACA that you've given a tremendous gift to the American people. It's been 20 years since we've had a vote on immigration of any type that's actually passed and become law. Immigration issues are very hard, they're very emotional, but there's been no deadline. So every time the Congress starts to work on it, they work on it for a while, then drop it because it's difficult. You gave us a deadline and setting that for March the 1st, and that's a tremendous gift to be able to get that done. Thanks for your engagement on this. I do absolutely agree with your heart on the issues on DACA and for those kids. I'd be able to find out we've got to get a legislative solution, but we've got to deal with every other issue as well, or we'll just keep having DACA votes every 10 years, and we can't do that. So thanks, and by the way, thanks for the new leadership at DHS as well, and looking forward to seeing your leadership in the days ahead.
Well, I have to tell you, James Langford has been a tremendous help, not only on what we just passed, but will be a tremendous help in this. And James, I want to thank you for your support. You've been really fantastic. And I can say that for all of the men and the people in this room. They've been fantastic. And John, you have really been, we can't even call you the whip, but you have been more than a whip. You've been so fantastic on the taxes and the tax cuts and the reform and the success of that. And certainly it wasn't easy. It went right to the last minute, and you were right there. And we all want to thank you. The job you did is fantastic. So, Senator Cornyn, want to say a few words?
Well, Mr. President, thank you for having us here. America is the most generous country in the world when it comes to legal immigration. But that generosity has been abused by people who are exploiting the vulnerabilities we have along the border with the lack of enforcement. And we saw the previous administration that try to usurp the authority that only Congress and the White House have in passing immigration laws. They try to do it by executive action, and the courts struck that down.
So I do think this is an important opportunity for those of us who care not only about the people and about our legal immigration system that's benefited us all, but also are determined to eliminate and stop illegal immigration along with the drugs and the harm that causes. And I do think this is a great opportunity. I hope we make the most of it. Coming from a border state with 1,200 miles of common border with Mexico, my constituents in Texas all understand the importance of border security and enforcement. At the same time, they're people with big hearts, and like you and like the rest of us who want to do the right thing by these young adults who came here as children, and I think we have a great opportunity.
Well, thank you very much, John. And I have to tell you that as I walked into the room, I don't know if you heard the latest, but the market's up about 150 points. And we broke a very, very big barrier, 25,000. And there were those that say we wouldn't break 25,000 by the end of the 8th year. And we're in the 11th month. We broke 25,000 just as we came in. Now, I have to be a little careful because as we walk out, maybe it goes down. You always have to be careful with that, Tom. But we did, in fact, break 25,000, very substantially break it, very easily. So I guess our new number is 30,000. But what it means is every time you see that number go up on Wall Street, it means jobs, it means success. It means 401ks that are flourishing. I was in New York at a big event recently, and I take a lot of pictures with police and with firemen and with the military. And one of the policemen came up, an officer, and he said, "Sir, I want to thank you. My 401k is through the roof. My wife thinks I'm a brilliant investor." He said he was up 39%. I said, "You should be doing better than that, actually." But he said, "I'm up 39% in 9 months." And he said, "I've never seen anything like it. My wife is so happy. My family is so happy." And people with 401ks, unless they're really having difficulties in life, they're doing very, very well. So I just want to congratulate everyone in the room because you work so hard. I may finish off with our new secretary, who's just in the position, but I will tell you, respected by everybody. Got a very good vote. Got a very good vote. And would you like to say anything, Secretary?
Yes, I just want to thank you for your leadership on this issue, and I really appreciate your support of the men and women of DHS. They do have a very dangerous job, one that we don't often like to talk about, but they do put their lives in danger for all of us every day. And I really look forward to working with all of you, learning today about your progress. As you know, border security, we have to have the wall and the technology and personnel that go with that, but we also need to close the loopholes so that we can do the expedited removal, because that's a core part of border security. So look very much forward to working with you and others in Congress to get this done.
And you're going to break all of General Kelly, who's right over here, you're going to break all of his records, right?
Absolutely.
Because he had some pretty good records. 78% is pretty, so far that's the best number. So we have to break 78%. That's tough, but you'll do it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Appreciate
your
it.
message to dreamers, Mr.
Thank
President.
you very much.
Your message to dreamers, Mr. President.
Hopefully everything's going to work out very well. We really want it to work out. I can tell you the Republicans want to see it work out very well. If we have support from the Democrats, I think DACA is going to be terrific. We have people that have been working on this issue for a long time. As Lindsay said, as others have said, we really are at a point where I think we could do something spectacular for the people on the border, people coming through. We have to be careful because there's a drug epidemic like the likes of which we've never seen in this country. We need protection, we need the wall, we need all of those things. And frankly, I think a lot of Democrats agree with us. When they see what's happening, when they see the kind of problems we're having at the border, they really understand it. Whether they'll vote that way is another situation, but they really understand it. So we want to thank you all for being here. We have a great spirit going in the Republican Party. I think it can be bipartisan. I hope it's going to be bipartisan, and we can take care of a lot of problems. Take care of a lot of problems. It would be really nice to do it in a bipartisan way. Okay? Thank you all very much.
Did Steve Bannon betray you, Mr. President?
Thank you very
Any
much.
words about Steve Bannon?
I don't know. He called me a great man last night, so he obviously changed his tune pretty quick. All right, thank you all very much. Thank you. I don't talk to him. I don't talk to him. That's just a misnomer. Thank you.
Hold it until she gets quiet.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, with that, we're back in the newsroom. Again, that was playback from the White House, President Trump making a sort of a sly, subtle comment there about Steve Bannon and how he called him a good guy last night, but changed his tune. So, yeah, we'll go with that, I guess, guys. We wanted to bring that to you because that's been a big talker today about his relationship with some of his staff members who have come out and said various things about him as president and some of his habits. But, hey, before we come back in and sort of talk a little more with Caroline here in the newsroom and kind of give you a sort of some newsroom chatter to some of our regulars who are on the stream, we're going to go back up to New York because the eastern seaboard is seeing blizzard conditions like none other this winter. In fact, there's even some records being set in Raleigh, North Carolina. They haven't seen it this cold since like the late 1800s or some stat like that. So it's a pretty wild storm. Nor'easter across the Northeast, of course, and just blizzard warnings across the states, lots of school cancellations, federal government agencies who are out on delays and whatnot throughout the week. DC has sort of seen less of this. It's kind of tapering down right here in the heart of DC. And if you want to take a look, there's the Capitol Dome, and we haven't seen any snow kind of cross that camera as of late, although you can see the skies are gray and ominous and snow threatening looking. But we're going to go back up to New York because Mayor Bill de Blasio is still breaking down some of the measures they're taking there to make sure people are safe during this storm. So let's go back there.
Can the gentleman from the
Oh, Daryl.
All right, guys, so obviously we jumped right over to that feed, but that had just ended with the mayor, actually. But they went through a long sort of list of security measures that they're taking and what they're doing to combat the storm. But hey, while we have a moment, while we have Skype not really working with our reporter who is out in coming back from Ocean City, Maryland, we're going to come back in and chat with Caroline, who's here for a couple weeks, joining us from Nashville, which is really cool and exciting. And actually, yeah, Fitz is here. Hey, our reporter, you guys know him. Fitz is here before he runs out. Before we talk to Caroline about her life and her. Yeah, you want to swap out really quick? Yes.
Not that I'm not interested in your life.
We gotta get some at least human interest news.
How are you?
All right, so she'll swap out for a second.
Hi, I'm not. I'm not in high school.
I know, right?
If you could tell.
But we just had this playback, and this is replaying now, so we'll just show you what we have. Trump was just here in the White House.
By the way, you're gonna watch me melt. Because I've got so many layers of.
Look at that.
This isn't gonna last
Armour,
long.
we got the. He's prepared. So we thought the blizzard was gonna last longer, but
You still got to go outside though.
I know, it's frigid.
All right.
So you're watching.
I'll make this quick before I melt away
okay.
like Frosty the Snowman. So a little while ago, the president was in the cabinet room, as you can see here, surrounded by. You can see Stephen Miller up front there at the very beginning of the shot. Senator Tom Cotton. There's the vice president. Senator Lindsey Graham is in there. Various others around the table. They are talking about some policy issues, but that's not what the press corps is asking them about majorly today. There were some questions about DACA, whether or not they could get together on a bipartisan agreement to solve the DACA agreement, because that is expiring in March. Of course, topic A this morning is what the heck is going on between the president and Steve Bannon. Last night, Trump attorneys had sent Bannon a cease and desist order, basically barring him from making any disparaging comments about the president, his family, the administration. We do not know whether or not Bannon himself has signed any kind of confidentiality agreement as part of his, either employment with the Trump campaign or then following that as a senior advisor to the president once he got into the White House. What we do know is this. The Trump attorneys had also sent a letter today seeking to delay publication of this book by Michael Wolff, Fire and Fury, which is the source of all of these explosive allegations that are quoted in there. Not only Bannon, but other people within this book. There are some things in there allegedly about Ivanka Trump saying about the president's hair.
Right.
So it goes from the serious to the ridiculous.
So people in the White House now, and also people who have been ousted.
Yeah, and then at 8:30 this morning, something even odder came out, which was that the White House was announcing that White House staff was no longer going to be able to use personal cell phones starting next week. Now, for months we've been telling you about how there had been an effort underway in the White House to stop leaks. The president, as you know, many times on Twitter has railed against leaks. He can't stand leaks. However, this is a new development in that the White House said at 8:30 this morning through a statement of White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders that not only is White House staff no longer going to be able to use personal cell phones, they will only be able to conduct business on government-issued devices. Now, that would mean basically if you are a White House staffer and a loved one calls you on your cell phone, you can't take that call, or we don't know whether they're going to have to check their phones in or what. But this is going to pertain to anybody in the West Wing. This is not going to pertain to the media. People, in the White House briefing room are still going to be allowed to use their phones. They're not going that far. However, the Attorney General a couple of months ago had indicated, Jeff Sessions, that he was going to pursue criminal charges against anybody found to be leaking if indeed they identified that a crime had taken place. So, on the one hand, they're saying this is about security, but on the other hand, we have a pretext of all of this in that the White House has been trying vigorously to clamp down on these leaks, and this book appears to be the final nail in that coffin.
Yeah, because it happens to come at the time that this new West Wing rule is out there, right?
Well,
timing is
they're
odd.
saying that this was in the works for a while. However, we to have the day that we had yesterday with the president issuing this statement saying that his former campaign manager, campaign Svengali, had lost his mind, and then in a matter of hours from that, Trump attorney sending this letter to Bannon to cease and desist. Bannon issued a statement last night. The president referenced it this morning that he had good things to say about him. Check your watch when these things come out, because they could change from moment to moment.
Yeah, definitely. And quickly on that topic, because I wasn't aware of this. Was that always the case? Personal cell phones were okay in the West Wing, but not in other federal government agencies, NSA, other things. I mean,
well, as we learned from Edward Snowden, there is a limit to what you can control sometimes when you have human beings, out and about living their lives and going to their jobs. Certainly in high security areas, that kind of thing is verboten. You're not allowed to bring a cell phone into certain areas. But we still need to learn the scope of this this ban. Now, this was said to be in the West Wing that this is going to apply for. However, I'll tell you, most of the employees that work for a White House don't work in the West Wing. They either work in the old executive office building now known as the Eisenhower building next door, or they work across the street in the other executive office building. So there are a lot of White House employees that don't work in the White House. The administration isn't all contained in that one building. So whether just clamping down on people who are working in the West Wing is going to solve their leak problem, presidents for years and years and years have railed against leaks and said they're going to stop leaks and then make sure that people and it's a function of this city. They can try, but the fact that the reality is in this city that when people know things, in order to show their power and their access, they like to tell things.
Put it out there, right.
And often they like to tell those things to reporters.
Yeah.
And that is a constant that runs through Democratic and Republican administrations for as long as everybody's been sitting on the banks of the Potomac.
Yeah. So this is an interesting kind of a historic action that they're taking right here. I mean, for no phones.
Well, we'll see how historic it is. What I'm more interested in is also to see if it works.
Yeah.
Because, this might be one of the most leaky White Houses we've seen in a long time. And, obviously, the president has stated publicly that he likes to pit people against each other. That, and if you ever watched The Apprentice, that's what that show was,
Right.
And, I don't think it's a stretch to point to that television show as to, be a bit of a microcosm about how this administration has worked. The president likes to have rivals, not in the way of Abraham Lincoln, where he assembled the team of rivals, but he likes to see what is the result of people being at odds against each other. But unfortunately, in a political spectrum, a lot of times that leads to things like leaks and people, saying disparaging things against each other. We saw it with, Anthony Scaramucci. We've seen it with other figures that have come in and out of the White House. The problem is, for the White House, this is not only a political issue, this is a legal issue right now. They have a very serious situation, and the Robert Mueller investigation is underway right now. And when you have Steve Bannon, going supposedly on the record now and saying that the son of the President of the United States is engaged in a treasonous act by this June 2016 meeting that he had taken with the Russians, that complicates an already very serious situation. And the last thing the White House needs right now is someone who was previously, in the inner circle of the White House, going out there and saying the kinds of things that Steve Bannon allegedly has told Michael Wolff in this book.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. If you guys have any thoughts or interest in the book, or if you've kind of heard about this, let us know in the live chat. And as always, some really good analysis from Tom. And you're going to go out and this is your story today. You're going to talk more about this tonight.
Yeah, if I don't sweat.
I was going to say, his layers. He's going to get out here in the
I think
cold.
I've lost 10 pounds just sitting here.
Luckily for you, it's freezing, so you're going to be good outside.
I can barely get up right now.
I know.
I'm so exhausted.
All right, thanks, Tom. So that was great.
Care.
And as
All
you
right.
guys can see, you're still seeing this playback. They kind of repeat this often, and we see the president from a different angle and what he had to say. We're going to be back with more with Caroline in the newsroom in just a second. Another quick view, let's take it while we still have it, of this drive back from Ocean City, guys. This is what it looks like outside. We're going to pull it out of the White House and show you this. Hopefully we have this feed a little longer. We're going to still try to connect with Cori Coffin, who was out there this morning in the blizzard. I think it would be fun to kind of chat with her about what she went through this morning. But until then, we'll take a moment here. We'll come back in the newsroom in just a second.
Hola.
All right, y'all, we're back in the newsroom after a little break. We had some technical issues on our side trying to get with our reporter, Cori, who was out there in this scenario, this sort of scene that you see here. This is their van driving back from Ocean City, Maryland. You can see the Chiron right below. You can see things are kind of clearing up on the roads. It's not as blizzard conditions as it was this morning, but let me tell you, if I can quickly pan over to her live shot this morning, Raisa, you and I were watching this.
I got cold just looking from it, guys. I can't. Shout out to Cori and Van, seriously, for being out there in this treacherous weather.
Seriously.
Like you said, Molly just said, you know, the snow is basically calming down. But earlier this morning, it was so intense. And I think she described it as super chilling and it basically hurt.
She did say that.
That's kind of scary.
And if I can bring this up with sound, I will try to do that. But honestly, just the picture of this, check out her live shot. She did multiple for the morning from this location on the coast, and this is snow at the beach. Check it out. This was Cori in those conditions this morning. Again, a lot of this is tapering off. This was just on the coastline, so Ocean City, Maryland, so it's not even close to sort of the city conditions that we're seeing here. Things are clearing up. It's going to be sunny. Caitlin was even saying earlier, but check it out. That look. You know, they got a good shot of that. She had to wear those snow pants, multiple layers, obviously.
She totally needed a thermal, I feel.
I know. It's hard, and it's hard to speak in conditions like that, right? But it's really something you don't see every day, so it was cool. I think she was probably thrilled to have this assignment. She likes this adventure.
She is. She's a very adventurous
girl. We were trying to get her on the phone just now. She is driving, and so it continues to look like this shot. That's her live look in the car. You can see the roadways nice and clear by this point, which is nice.
Yeah, which is good.
Tucker and Caitlin came on earlier to talk a little bit about weather and what's gonna pan out from this, and things were already kind of slowing down. They were talking about how it's gonna be frigidly cold this week, but really just one day of sort of this craziness. Again, the bomb cyclone that is hitting, literally the scientific term, that is hitting the East Coast and up to the New England seaboard and up through Maine even. Man, some of those northern towns are getting hit so much worse.
How many inches are they expecting?
They were overnight. I know in New England, we were talking about this, 8 to 14 in New England up to Maine, and they've seen just that. I know I've been in contact with some people who are up there, and lots of people are off work. They're teleworking, working from home, or just sort of reporting back about the conditions. A lot of the kids have school days. My mom, who's up there in Rhode Island, was like, everyone's already off. They knew we were going to get what we were going to get, and they were confident in it, and such was the case. So
yeah, as it happens.
This is kind of a funny shot, though. If we flash it back to Cori's live shot from this morning, this was a palm tree that got sort of covered in, or that type of tree, rather, that got covered in snow and was like keeled over. That thing was not feeling the snow, right?
Absolutely not. It's totally out of its element. Look at it.
It is.
It's like, what is happening?
Totally.
Oh.
But we'll take off this thing here because we'll come back, and like I said, hoping to get her on the phone. If that doesn't work out, we'll take it somewhere else. But while we have Raisa, let's talk about some other social topics.
What's going on, guys?
Various news, viral videos, obviously just some of the hotter news items of the day. First, I want to talk about this because this happened, I want to say this was yesterday evening, but people were reporting on this, and if you missed it, did anybody catch this? There was a fed-up passenger on a plane, on a Ryanair flight, which is the budget airline all over Europe. I've actually taken it in my previous years. And someone got video of this. Check it out. He was just annoyed that the fact that they weren't deboarding or deplaning. And so he literally calmly opened up the exit
the exit door, right?
Got onto the wing, grabbed his bag, and just exited the plane.
And he hit the deuces and said, "I'm not for this. Bye-bye."
The story is wild. I mean, I think it spurred a little bit of fright.
Yeah.
And people sort of wondering, but the guy stayed calm apparently.
Yeah.
And I think he was 25 years old. Later, they asked him, and he said, "Hey, I was sick of waiting inside." So someone got this video, which is amazing.
Patience is a virtue, guys.
And now
I don't know if in the story they detailed how long they were waiting, but I think they said it was like a delayed flight, and maybe he was just antsy to get off the plane. But even then, I've experienced that myself. This past weekend, caught a flight, it was delayed, and yes, I was definitely antsy to get off, but I don't think this would ever cross my mind to hit the exit door and just say, "Hey guys, I'm getting out." And I think he's not allowed to board that plane, let alone take a flight for X amount of time frame. I think they completely banned him for a little. So
is that right? That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it caused quite a scare there.
It definitely did.
How would you feel if you were on a flight and some rando just decides, "Hey, let me get off that plane
by
taking the exit"?
I would be alarmed. Like, is he setting? Is something happening? Is something scary going to go down?
Exactly. You just don't know.
Yeah, you just don't know. So I don't know. That kind of alarmed me just to read that story, but just in sort of weird airline type of news, we hear about this from time to time. Another cool social story. You were kind of giving me the heads up on this one this morning. We're seeing cold weather. It's obviously a time for people to be careful in the cold weather and to bundle up. And there are a lot of people who don't really have homes or places to go or clothes to wear in this type of weather. So I think this was a story from which station, Raisa? They shared to us.
I think this is happening in New York.
Okay.
It was a different sister station that worked on the story, Fox
Got
13.
it.
So essentially, the gist behind the story is in New York, there have been jackets with a little sign that says, "I'm not lost, take me home." And it's essentially wrapped around a jacket. They're found in poles. They've been found in poles, around fences, around trees. So it's for the homeless people who, you know, who don't have a coat to keep them warm. And I thought it was just awesome because I've seen this on my Facebook period, just close friends asking for coat donations here in the DC area for people who unfortunately don't have and for underserved families. So what they're doing is they're collecting items to be able to give to these families. So essentially that's what's happening in New York because how cold has it been?
Yeah,
I mean,
really bad.
What was it yesterday here? We woke up to like 12-degree
Yeah,
weather,
it was,
something
it
like
was
that.
Teen digits, obviously single digits even over New Year's up north where we both were, and you know it's gonna be even colder this week.
Right, and this is us bundled up, so I can't even imagine people who don't have.
So true. These type of stories come out every year, of course, as people deal with the frigid conditions, and I think it's a nice testament to people who are really caring out there and who are giving to others, and hopefully these people really do get their hands on these coats and they can and use them. You know,
continue to help other people as
sharing
well.
the warmth. I like that.
Sharing the warmth.
Good story.
No, it is. Nice little heartfelt.
Some feel good ones. Also, okay, we got to talk about this marijuana news, guys. You know, California legalized as a state, right, the recreational use of marijuana on the new year. Today, actually, in breaking news, our federal government attorney general Jeff Sessions is actually going after this. He's rescinded a policy that let legalized marijuana actually flourish throughout the states without federal intervention. So now there's sort of a stipulation, and the move will leave it to U.S. attorneys where pot is actually legal, so think Colorado, California, etc., to decide whether to enforce federal laws on it. So it's kind of like letting go a little bit, letting these attorneys decide it in these states that already legalize it, if the federal government is going to step in or not. So there's still that overarching federal law against marijuana use. But a lot of people, I remember Obama was kind of known for turning a blind eye a little bit in that there was never this big crackdown federally, but technically because of the law it could happen anytime. But this Jeff Sessions move comes just a few days after California legalized it as a state recreational use. So pretty interesting news.
It's pretty interesting to see how that'll pan out.
Pot users and people of the like. Sessions has been known to compare marijuana to heroin and blames it for spikes in violence. So just some interesting kind of news in that world. Let us know what you think about that. Some of you might be watching. I think maybe if you're still on, I have some people from the Pacific Northwest watching, so you are familiar with states, you know, that legalize marijuana over there. But just an interesting little announcement, breaking news today.
Yeah, that's interesting to see how that'll pan out here, since DC and Maryland do have that as an option. So.
And it's funny in DC because we're this weird, you know, area district, not even a state, a district that also has federal grounds, right? We have federal property where it is still obviously illegal because it's federally run.
Right.
So you got parts of it that count as a district, and then parts of it that are like, wait, this is actually part of a national park.
Exactly.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
It's an interesting little breakup there.
It's a weird thing. Hey, look, check out the difference, guys. We're back to the car where Cori is.
Okay.
It's so much clearer.
Can't
the
even see
highways.
nothing.
Do you remember before though?
That's
it was so snowy and it was.
Right, it was covered with
it's pretty clear. Everything's looking good on the highway.
Oh, that's great. That'll make my commute home safer.
I
and
know.
You know what cool thing?
Yeah.
All the students that stayed home, teachers, workers, thank you. The roads will be nice and clear.
I know.
Because you know, let me tell you this. I was so happy last week. Traffic was amazing coming into work as well as leaving here in DC. Traffic can be brutal if you've ever driven in it, especially during the rush hour. So that was, I feel like, my Christmas present from the area. Like, hey, you'll have a nice, easy commute to work. So today will be awesome because I always look forward to, you know,
The easy back.
Easy traveling back home. Me and Terrence were actually talking about this and discussed how we felt less stressed coming in and just felt more peppy and jolly. Like, hi, good morning, versus when you're in traffic, fighting it for about an hour. You come in and you're like, where's the coffee? But we didn't even need that. We came in like, hi, good morning, all cheery. So it honestly does affect your mood too. So
it totally does. I know
throwing that little random thing out there.
I know, and some of you on the stream have even said that it affects you guys as well because you live in areas maybe that are constantly covered with cloud or just sort of ominous skies and just rainy weather. So it's nice to be in a place where I know, right? It literally,
what a way to put it.
I know, the gray skies. But hopefully things clear up as they Tucker and Caitlin said it would. It's going to be sunnier, and then tomorrow sun.
I think we're hitting the 40s next week, right?
Is that right?
I think so. How crazy is that?
Already, which is awesome.
The switch up there. Speaking of omnias, how about that viral thing with the teacher and the students?
Oh, yeah.
That was a good one.
Moving story. It's really interesting. I don't really have a picture to show for this one, but let's go to the story. There was the story out of Oakland, California. We'll bring it back in.
Yeah.
Oakland, California, there's a teacher who does a riddle every day for his students to figure out those fun little games that you used to do, you know, in elementary school. That's sort of like a riddle, and then the answer is one word or one concept or something. And so this is cute. Basically, he's been teaching 1st and 2nd grade for a while now, for 7 years, has a family. Anyway, this kind of made the viral rounds because he put out this riddle, and this is the riddle. I'll tell you guys, and see if you guys can answer it first. I don't know if Right said you would have gotten this.
No, because I read it and I was like, I have no idea what this is. Is it tough? Who knows?
Tough. Right. I wish I had it in print so I could show you, but I don't. But here it is. The riddle is, I am the beginning of everything, the end of everywhere, the beginning of eternity, the end of time and space. Right? So it's really abstract. It's kind of weird. You're thinking like a billion things. Is it is it double meaning? Like, what does it mean? So once again, I'm the beginning of everything, the end of everywhere. I'm the beginning of eternity and the end of time and space. What am I? And so his students, think about it, and they write down their answers. And he obviously has an answer in mind, and then one of his students comes out with an answer that they're saying, according to sort of this viral post that kind of made its rounds, but the kid had a better answer than the teacher had even prepared himself.
He didn't even expect it. I think he left him so shook. He was like, what? Who would have thought? From a 1st grader.
Yeah, so this is
from a 1st grader's
really
response.
And you're right, speaking of ominous. So
like when I read it, I was shook.
Any guesses, guys? Let me see. Is anybody on this? Well, if you heard it. Anyway, the answer is the letter E. So it's kind of a play on words. The beginning of everything, the end of everywhere, the beginning of eternity, the end of time and space. The letter E is what this teacher had planned in mind because that's the answer. The little 1st grader, his answer was death. Just simply death. And it was a deeper meaning, and it was even almost more connected to that riddle than his answer. And the kid was like, and the teacher was like astounded that this kid came up with it.
Yeah.
And it was a cute little story because the kid was saying, that makes sense. It's the beginning of everything, so the beginning of time kind of started with that. The end of everywhere, the beginning of eternity is death, and then eternity, and then the end of time and space. So it's like a deeper. Anyway,
he really I feel like that was a deep answer, and that's the thing with riddles. Sometimes they're not as deep as you may think. It's like literally right there on the surface, and that's what's angering sometimes when I find the answer to certain riddles, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was right there in front of my face.
I know, because it's the letter or something.
But that response, I mean,
I know,
I felt it, guys.
good?
Did you guys feel it? Because I did.
Such a good one.
I would have just gone with that.
What else is going on Instagram today? Did you have any interesting stories?
What else is going on? We've been doing a lot of snow coverage, guys.
That's
so
right.
our latest post was actually a gallery of snow floofers that were out enjoying the day.
Check them out.
Yeah, they're so adorable. The only swiping right that you need to do today, guys. Seriously, look at that.
Oh. So a lot of these guys, people sent these in to you.
Yeah, so we had a lot of awesome viewers send in their fur babies using the hashtag Fox5DC and Fox5 Snow Day. So I just put up a little compilation of some of the cuties that were out and about.
They are. Oh my gosh, the black and white. With
so pretty.
I love
So
it.
cute.
So when we do have these bigger storms and we ask people to send in, they're playing in the snow, their snow day pics, and of course their dogs.
Yeah, we have a lot of content creators here in the DC area, and I feel like all across the nation, considering we do social media, so I find it a big joy. Look at
you got a lot
him.
of good
His name is
ones.
Charlie Brown. Yeah, we have some awesome viewers who send in great content. And seriously, guys, I'm always looking for cool content to post on our Insta. So if you guys have awesome pictures, use hashtag Box5DC. I'm always on the lookout for great stuff. So
those are really good ones. There's a lot of them.
this is where I want to be.
Oh, so cozy and awesome.
Khaleesi hit it.
Well, I'm curious too, guys. Tell us where you are for this winter storm of sorts. We don't know kind of what everyone is dealing with, and I know different parts of the country are different, but let us know what you're seeing in your neck of the woods. Because I know, like I said, here it's pretty much tapering down.
Yeah.
And we're going to see sort of what the swing is. But I know it's going to be lingering in New England. We're going to see footage from the north more so. And really the craziest thing is yesterday we were pulling some video, or we were getting it in live from Savannah, Georgia, places like Charleston, South Carolina, down on the coast that were getting snow before we even did.
Florida.
It was, Tallahassee.
Yeah.
The videos that you just never really see. So snow's, it's a big talker, it's a big story.
I think so, because it's hitting in weirdo areas that you would not expect. Because when I think of warmth, I'm like, oh yeah, let me just go down to Florida. But hey, who got hit with snow first? So much for flip-flop weather. Flip-flops.
Totally.
I wonder how they stay prepared, because like, okay, you have this snow that comes in. Do you think it's like stuff that they have at home from when they visit family on other sides, or like friends on other parts of, the United States? Because I'm thinking, like, if I lived in Florida, would I have a winter coat? Maybe. I don't know.
You wonder how prepared they really can be, because they don't ever see this. But you hope that people kind of see the forecast and like get and know what they need to prepare for it. But it's really wild that they saw snow before we even did in the Atlantic.
Right. But that's awesome for the kids that got to experience it for the first times in their lives. If they've never seen snow before, I mean, I would be wowed. How magical is that? So
I wouldn't
that's
say
a cool thing.
I wouldn't say it was a massive winter storm.
No,
today.
not
I know
at all.
some people are saying those words. I wouldn't have said that. I don't think our weather guys would say that either. But first good amount of fall and then a good blizzard on the coast, but pretty much tapering off. But yeah, the footage this morning was just crazy. Yeah, I know that's pretty much soccer, guys. Everyone's talking about the snow today. We got tons of people sort of dispatched on the story this morning. Can't really say that the topic of the day is anything else but snow.
But snow. Awesome thing though, entertainment world. So this would totally be a Kevin McCarthy talk. So Black Panther, guys, is coming out. I heard that they came out with a new trailer. I'm super amped to see this. He just seems like such an awesome character. When they introduced him in the last movie, what was it? Gosh, I can't remember. But I will think about it in 1 second.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the awesome actors that they have lined up for this whole movie is insane, and I feel like it really highlights on just what am I trying to say here, guys? What am I trying to say here? I just think it's gonna be an awesome movie, an awesome Marvel. I think he probably hasn't just yet.
We'll have to chat with him. Maybe
we'll
we can
totally
grab
have to
him
chat with him.
Future, day
when
to
he's
sit
here.
down and chat about it.
Because that opens up February, guys. So that's around the corner. And then Slender Man. I don't know if you're familiar with the Slender Man. I feel like he's tormented all of Europe. So it's basically, and not just Europe, I feel like in the United States too, there was this HBO documentary that came out essentially about these two girls who killed one of their friends and basically blamed it on the Slender Man. And if you're not familiar with who he is, he's basically this super tall man who lives in the woods, and he preys on children and their fears. So that's what he is, and they are coming out with this movie about him if you're fans about that, and I would highly suggest checking out the trailer. It's definitely horror / sci-fi, but definitely more on the horror side. So if you're into that, you're totally gonna love that. I saw the trailer yesterday. Anjali was actually our reporter. She actually recommended the HBO documentary on this and this specific case on these girls who murdered their friend and blamed the Slender Man. They basically said if we didn't kill her, he was going to come and kill us. And it was like a big case.
Really?
Yeah, I would
I'm
definitely
curious about that.
suggest
Judy would
watching.
love.
It's so freaking cool. I think she's seen it.
Probably.
Yeah. So that was
It's
an
now
awesome.
just out on what? Or
So
is
now
it-
I think they're just gonna play up a horror movie on
Mm.
him because I don't think he really has his own specific horror movie. So this will be a big highlight on this man who has tormented like kids and has preyed on their fears, and there's a lot of folk tales behind him. And I think in Europe, if I'm not mistaken, the origins behind him was parents would tell their kids, if you don't go to sleep, the Slender Man will come and get you. So that would kind of like sway kids to kind of like go to bed. Okay, I'm gonna go to bed now. But there was a specific town in Europe, and just kind of like vaguely remembering what I read, a bunch of little kids started going missing. And I think the story behind that was there's this one person, a witness, who saw a little kid being lured by this super, super tall man into the woods. And
that's where the name kind of came from.
I think so, yes. And so, in addition to that, in the documentary, if you guys haven't watched that, they show pictures where you see this faint, tall figure just hanging in backgrounds through different time frames in X amount of years. So it's kind of creepy. Definitely makes you wonder, all these like little things. They compare him to an alien. So I found that, like this is literally fascinating to me. So I find it cool that his movie's coming out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's really great.
Yeah, guys, Slender Man, Google it.
It reminds me of all the things we've been talking about. Gosh, I don't know if a lot of you guys are podcasters or if you are kind of into, right?
Yeah.
I'm just behind on so many of them, but I'm curious to see what your favorites are out there. I know we got a couple recommendations while we were sitting by the desk yesterday, and I am way behind, but like that just reminded me because like these mystery things with murders, like Stranglers, which is about the Boston Strangler, Crime Town, which I'm super behind on, just like all these other ones that people are talking about, and I'm like,
My Favorite Murder.
Come on,
That's a good one.
Podcasting is so interesting, and it's really a new wave of a digital era, and how people are getting a lot of information and listening to stories, and
it's in a fun, creative way, I feel too, versus like I don't know, maybe reading something or watching something. It's like, okay, you're hearing something, and they're just as creatively designed. I feel like it is amazing.
Editing,
the editing that goes into play,
research,
the voiceover, the research. It's a lot.
It is a lot,
but I like them, especially when I'm in traffic for an hour. So I listen to one solid episode, depending on what I'm listening to. So I find that cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So hopefully we do have some more breaking news and live steps to cover for you. Just kind of breaking down the social topics and the viral videos with Risa here. If you, I'm just seeing that there's a little bit of volume issue. Hopefully you guys can hear us, Molly Nivola and Risa here in the newsroom. Earlier we had Caroline, one of our kind of new interns. She'll be with us for a couple weeks, so hopefully we get to introduce her and you guys can meet her. And she'll talk about what she's working on while she's here at the station. But yeah, the majority of our coverage has been seeing what it looks like up and down the eastern seaboard. Live look right now at Philadelphia, kind of a pretty shot there, where it's like I said, the snow is it's falling a little heavier. It's a little more. There's more snowfall and more blizzard conditions, I guess you could say, up north. Whereas here, it is almost clear now. This is a live shot of Van, our photojournalist. Car just driving through the highway there. He and Cori are coming back. I was never able to get Cori to secure about it. Oh, let's see. I might be able to get her to call in now. Actually,
great.
Yeah, let's see. We can both chat with her.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to tell her.
Oh, look at that. They're getting off their exit. Yay.
Are they close to us?
Well, it said Baltimore Silver Spring. I don't know how far that is. How far is that? Baltimore
Okay,
Silver
she's not
Spring?
far. Maybe 30 minutes away.
Okay, great.
So we'll get her rundown.
Good for them.
Let me just tell her she'll be on right away. We're going to have her call in. And we'll get her on the phone. So we'll see. But I'm going to bring you pictures of her earlier live shots too once we get her. So let's see if we can bring a split shot here of us and her car. And we'll try to hear from her.
Hey, Molly, I'm on, by the way.
Oh, hey, Cori, you can hear us. Great.
Hi, Cori.
Hi.
Hey, it's Molly and Risa. We're in the newsroom. So, yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't get Cori on Skype, but we have her on phone now. And this is, we're taking your footage right now of your drive back to the station.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. Yeah, I have some video from you from earlier, and it was just wild, those conditions out there this morning. Tell me a little more about what it felt like being out there. I'm going to bring this video to the screen so our viewers can see.
Well, so I was talking to Van on the drive back, our photojournalist, and because he's covered many storms, and he said even all of the storms that he's covered in the past, he has not experienced anything with this kind of whipping wind with the ice in the air that we had. It felt like 1,000 tiny daggers hitting your face. It was very, very intense and very cold.
Yeah, that's what you said. We heard you on your live shot. You were saying it was piercing almost. That was crazy.
Felt very piercing.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
And okay.
It was very small pieces of ice and snow in the air.
Yeah. What was the most astounding thing you saw? I mean, you were on these sort of desolate roads, right? There was no one really out when you were out there, right?
It was a ghost town.
Yeah.
And having it be completely covered in the snow was really fascinating. We did start to see people as the sun came up, a few people who lived there or had businesses there shoveling out, trying to drive. I think the biggest surprise for people was the fact that they thought the roads were going to be a little easier. We saw a lot of people get stuck.
Wow. Yeah. And you have to tell me too, coming from, I know you were in warmer climates prior to this. Was this kind of a shocker for you?
It was, but I think not because of the cold factor. It was because of the wind.
Yeah.
When we stepped out of our hotel this morning and I got that first blast of cold wind right in the face, my very first thought was, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So we're looking right now. Like I said, I'm bringing up some prior video from this morning, and Cori did a bunch of different hits in our various morning shows. But we're looking at that sort of palm tree looking thing that was covered in snow. That was kind of wild.
Oh yeah. It was that was the first iconic thing that we saw when we drove in before the snow started coming down. I saw these palm trees that it was clear, it's the off season. They are not in their full vegetative state. And so that was already obvious. But then to come out the next day and see all of the snow covering them, their branches broken, they were just, it's very clear that they're probably waiting out the summer like we are.
Yeah, that's crazy. So my guess is too that because this is sort of a summering type of town and people aren't necessarily there year round, that is it true that there weren't just a lot of people to kind of, or like the public system of plowing isn't as needed, right? Or not as expected or not as prevalent. So what was the case there? I mean, are they expected to get plowed?
Yeah, it's very interesting because thankfully it's not as much of an emergency as if it were more populated. We did see the plows come through, but not as much as the further inland areas of Ocean City. So the boardwalk, definitely the smaller roads there did not get plowed, and I think they had to kind of prioritize. And it was interesting too because the plows would come through, and because of the wind and the snowdrift, it would be, an hour later, it'd be as if it was never plowed, so the plows would have to go back through again.
Wow. Yeah. Definitely. Well, we have some viewers on our digital stream who are kind of asking some questions, so I'll see what they have to say. I guess. So
yeah, definitely.
This is cool. Yeah, I'll ask you a few. You were on. What are you guys on right now? Because now I'm taking the shot of you guys driving. You're almost back, right?
We're in PG County.
Just getting the info.
Not far from the Greenbelt. We're just about to hit Greenbelt.
Okay, perfect. So as you guys can see, if you're on the stream, you can see how clear it is in that shot. This is a live look from the van that they're in with Van, the photojournalist who's driving there, and he got all this footage now that we're just switching over to from this morning. So this snowy footage that you're looking at here is from early morning hours. Cori and Van stayed overnight, right, Cori, in Ocean City?
Yes. So we got in and it started snowing about 10 o'clock last night. And then didn't really start to really pick up until about midnight.
Oh, wow. That's right. Because I remember waking up early this morning. We woke up to it.
Yeah, we woke up to it. And she was in the hustle and bustle of all of it, too.
Yeah, you were in the heart of it. What were you going to say?
We were surprised that Route 50, so earlier, before we got here to these clear roads, our drive back was on Route 50, and it really was much snowier than we expected. We thought that the plows would have had the entire route cleared, but they just didn't have the capabilities to do too much. And they were going back and forth. But that's just a testament to how much snow came down and for how long of a period that even Route 50, which is a major thoroughfare back and forth, was snowed over.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And it's just seeing the wind, even in, like I said, in this old shot from this morning, you can really tell the wind is picked up there. That's a great shot of that palm tree because you can see just how windy it was. And that was all like hitting your face and you were trying to speak through it. It was really amazing. Cori, I was like astounded.
And she did it
I was
so
astounded
poised.
that I stayed upright.
I know, we saw that. We saw that we took the video of
Yeah.
Van kind of falling over too.
Oh my goodness!
I know
Yeah,
the footage-
Van actually saw some power lines close to snapping, so I know that was a concern for officials too.
Yeah. So I guess really the news here, guys, as you know, we heard from Tucker earlier this morning, is that if you are in the DC area, this is sort of all pretty much gone now. You can see the live look here at their drive back.
So clear.
Cori Coffin on the phone. She was covering this morning in Ocean City, but things have really cleared up, especially inland, like you were saying. And I don't believe, Graham, you're asking what it's going to be like tomorrow, but we're hearing sunny but very frigidly cold this week. So it looks like pretty much we're kind of done with this minor storm, which is
that's good.
Good to know. Yeah. So now Cori will be on something else, but that was quite an adventure for you.
It was, and it was, to be honest, in all of the cold, freezing ice daggers, it was really fun.
Oh, good. And I said that. I was like, Cori, I was talking to Rice,
Yeah.
I was like, she did such a great job with this. You did some hits for, Fox National, and like we were watching throughout the hours, and I was like, she's adventurous. She's really into this.
And she was. And
Loved
she did
it.
great.
And you loved it.
You do.
And you want to tell me, though, you have to say, tell me this, though, is it hard to sort of like poise yourself together and speak in that wind and snow?
Oof, that's a good
Yes, I was surprised at how often, when the wind would hit, that I was taken aback to the point where I couldn't speak, and it was completely involuntary. Like I couldn't get a breath in. My lungs kind of froze for a moment until I could, compose myself again.
That makes sense. Yeah, we were listening, and I was like, wow, she's doing such a good job I can
Yes.
tell she's sort of breathing in this cold air, and it's really hard to get words out. So anyway, props to you. That was such a great job for both of you guys. Thanks so much for calling in and giving us sort of the rundown of the morning.
Oh, happy to. It was
Okay.
a good time, and yeah, thank you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Cori and Van. We'll see you guys later.
We'll see you guys later.
Okay, bye.
So that was Cori on the phone. Really good to hear from her. And just jump in. There's their car. You can tell the snow is just melting. So anyway, good news for local DC residents, whoever's sort of around this immediate inland area. Going to see nothing like what they saw this morning. I really can't believe it. And some of you guys were commenting on this footage. That was just this morning. Way out there on the coast. And you never think of a beach town being covered in snow.
Absolutely not.
Ever.
Ever.
I'm like, this is beach snow. But yeah, Graham, Iran, thanks for watching, some of our regulars. I'm glad that some of you guys are not affected. You're all over the nation, but if you are local, maybe you saw some of it this morning. I will say I got up and headed outside early today and did see it physically coming down. Kind of breathed in. I felt the wind. I was bundled up. I had a hat and my big jacket, but like they said, light dusting of a couple inches that stuck, but it wasn't too. It didn't really thwart like my plans. Like
Exactly,
I was
same
able to wipe
here.
my car off. I was good.
I loved how soft it was.
It was.
So you could easily just one wipe and it almost essentially all fell.
Absolutely.
I hate it when it gets super packed and then you're really like
yeah.
scrubbing there to get it off.
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
was rather easy
We'll
getting
be
out today.
grateful, if we can have a light winter with like very
I'm
light
happy
powder
for that.
snow.
Please.
Anybody around this area get affected? I know, Graham, I think you're from the DMV area. If you got stalled today or kind of have a snow story, let us know in the box. But that was our snow coverage today, and we had to get Cori because she had the most visual and interesting shot from this morning.
Yeah, she had the best.
She did a great job.
I mean, look at this palm
tough.
tree. I
I
can't.
know.
It's
go back
just
to
like
it.
swaying.
Oh, this was crazy. It was a good shot.
Snow and palm trees.
So fun to cover, of course, the weather. And if you guys missed sort of our earlier coverage, we sort of have been breaking down from the newsroom some of the hot topics in the breaking news from today. Lots of it weather related, but we also had some politics. So if you missed it on this stream earlier, we had an inside look at the Trump White House. There were some comments made by Trump where he got a question about Steve Bannon. Of course, that's been in the news with the new Michael Wolff book coming out and revealing that some of President Trump's top staffers and aides have come out with details about President Trump himself and some not so nice comments about him. And he got a question about that, and he said, well, Steve Bannon said I was a great guy last night. I guess he changed his tune, and there was just a little bit of banter in that room when he was giving sort of a rundown about DACA and the wall. So some political coverage there. And then also we are supposed to be getting a White House press briefing coming up shortly. So if we do, hopefully we'll get that soon. It was slated for about 1:30, which is now. We're going to keep our eye out for that. But with that, guys, I'm curious about any of your snow stories, any weather-related, anything that you went through today, whether you're local or not. Remember, the whole Eastern Seaboard is seeing this storm. I'm telling you, my parents up in New England, they were ready for it. They announced it last night. Tucker and I were talking about how we both have relatives in New England, and you know, they know how to deal with it.
They're prepared.
And they're prepared, and they plan to be, you know, out work, out school, telework, and they have plows on the roadways, and they know what to do. So they are indoors today, to say the least, and we'll see what kind of coverage we get as New York City continues to kind of prep and deal with snow they're getting, and also Philadelphia. Check out this live look at Philly. They're not so bad. We can see it's still coming down, and they need to prep for what they're going to do. The roads look better and a little more clear. We can still see people trudging through some of that slush.
Carefully, absolutely.
I'm telling you, I got my LL Bean boots on today. I am prepared
you are
as
ready.
I have to be. And yeah, you gotta be, right? I'm trudging
No,
through the snow.
absolutely.
And I'm
I hear you.
You got your boots.
I got my boots too. They come up to my knees.
Yes.
Well, essentially almost all the way.
We gotta get out of this parking lot somehow, right?
Exactly.
We're like, I gotta get
well, I
out.
gotta get home somehow.
Oh, Graham, you're saying your shoes got a little soggy heading out for coffee, but then you're good. You're in your apartment getting work done. Good. Glad to hear you're staying warm.
Same.
That's a thing. You step out there, you really need those, you know, rubber boots or something to keep you secure,
This
because
cozy's
it
one.
is slushy. And look at this. Back to Philadelphia, you see that ambulance going somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Maybe people are chasing that one, but hopefully everyone's okay. Haven't seen too many major problems here with fires or ambulances
Everything's
because
been chill.
of the storm. Yeah, so we're hoping to see a nice, safe winter storm here in DC, and hope that you guys are staying warm wherever you are. But great to talk to Cori. That was fun.
Yeah, that was great. I love hearing her insight too.
Yeah,
like how did you do this?
She was good, and just like
She
we
did
said,
great.
she was excited to be there. I knew she was adventurous. I was like, she's into it.
Right.
She's good. She stayed
It was
overnight.
a transition too.
And to think it started around midnight, which means it pumped up for 2 a.m., 3 a.m.,
Right.
then in her 4 a.m. hit.
So she really got it during its golden hours.
She
So,
did.
Good job, guys.
Anybody excited for snow this season? We don't know what type of winter we're going to get. I talked to Tucker and Caitlin this morning. We were saying, you know, weather patterns change all the time, so you just don't know what kind of winter we're going to see. I'm crossing my fingers for a reasonable one that's, you know, something interesting to
I wouldn't
save.
mind another one like today. Like if it's gonna snow, let it be like today. It
Send
was
some people
doable,
out.
workable, exactly, and you can literally just wipe off the snow versus it piling up. I don't want inches, please. Just a few dustings. That would be great, please.
And you wonder too, with these weird ones on the coast, where these
Yeah.
beach towns that never see snow get snow, you wonder about some of the homeowners out there, right? We
Oh,
have
that too,
even some
yeah.
colleagues in here who own property out on the beaches there, Delaware beaches, Rehoboth, Dewey, Ocean City, right there, where people go vacationing in the summer. You wonder about some of these homeowners if they have to deal with any damage or deal with some upkeep because of that. Maybe they're not being lived in, of course, now.
Right.
And they got to go check them out now because, you know, what type of damage can these winds do?
Exactly.
You wonder about that.
That is interesting. That's a
Hopefully
good question.
safe.
Does your family have any like
Probably
homes close to the coast?
Don't,
No.
but
Okay.
just because my family's in the ocean state, which is Rhode Island,
Yeah.
so it's very much surrounded as a peninsula is with water. So things inland are usually safer, but yeah, things on the coast beach towns are at
scary there.
risk.
Yeah.
So you wonder about how they're doing, but
maintenance,
hopefully
how they
New England
do
is
that.
okay. I know they're getting a ton of
Yeah.
snow. New York's getting a lot. Long Island, right there on the water.
That too, yeah.
Dude, and all the flights being canceled, it is
Oh my
wild. They're saying, you know, make sure you have plans to hopefully you're rebooked. Hopefully you can either stay and hunker down where you are and get some work done or rebook. But it does scare you to kind of see these winds and think, oh man, I shouldn't be obviously flying in this.
Exactly.
I'm going to get canceled. And it's funny, just coming from Boston, I know both of us were in separate things in Boston for New Year's. And then we got back just in time. We had that cold, crisp air to fly in, and now it's, you know, threatening, windy air.
Exactly. We
that
left
they're
just in
canceling.
time.
I know.
And not to mention, my flight was delayed because of the whole situation that had happened in Florida. Something with like some computer system just completely threw off the whole schedule. So once one flight is delayed, and then the next one after that, so on and so forth. So I was kind of stranded in the airport for 3 hours.
Were.
Oh my gosh, guys.
Logan Airport in Boston
Yeah.
went through a lot of cancellations shortly thereafter, a few days later. And then, of course, so did New York, JFK. You know,
Yeah.
everything's getting stalled, and rightfully so. People need to kind of definitely be
Take
safe
precautions.
and not, take
Absolutely.
precautions.
Yeah.
But it was crazy to see. I was even at an outdoor venue for something on the frigid day of New Year's Eve. I want to say it was in the low teens for temperature. And
Such a champ.
I know. Well, I was buying something. I'm telling you. So without kind of explaining everything, I was trying to buy something, and the iPad swipers were actually down because of the frigid temperatures. So the cold weather actually affects, these electronics.
Yes,
like, we don't
it
even
does.
think about it.
It's happened to me. I've whipped out my phone in like the teens kind of weather, and the battery just dies on me. So it's a matter of just like replugging your phone back in. It'll get like a little bit of juice and then it'll spike back up to like 44, but it dies on you. So it happens, guys.
It affects the battery. It affects your car batteries. We were talking really interesting story last night on Fox 5 Local News. If you're local, maybe you caught it. If not, I think we have this article up somewhere. The top things you should not leave in your car in these frigid temperatures. And we mentioned this on the stream yesterday. And it's stuff like your phone. It's like
I never do.
Beer or anything carbonated.
Don't do
Never
that.
do it.
What else?
I'm always wondering makeup, but mine is in the car right now, and I'm like, I really hope to God that my expensive products are not getting frozen.
The highlight.
But you realize there's things, eggs you should never leave in your car. They should never be frozen. If they are, you should throw them away. Like I said, anything electronic, not just your phone.
Okay.
Electronics are damaged by that.
Makes
car
sense.
batteries get damaged, and they're out there in the cold.
It's funny.
Perfumes and colognes.
But it's funny that it's like it comes to the batteries, because I remember, and I don't know if you used to do this, back when I had a CD player, you know, the little Walkmans, they were like, if your battery is dying, pop it in the refrigerator for a few hours. It'll give it a little bit more juice. And then you would pop it back in, exactly, to make it cold. And then somehow that'll like recharge it a little bit. And then you can use it until like it's completely dead. So I would find myself popping my batteries in the fridge a lot because I needed my CD player to work, guys. So I wonder how that correlates, and then this kind of falls into that place. I want to know what the science behind that is.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
I'm gonna have to Google that.
I know. I thought that story was cool because it's basic tips. I love basic tip news stories to educate you. I'm like, I want to learn new things. I want to learn how I'm going to be surviving in this cold weather because, guys, we're going into winter here and really everywhere. I think it'll be interesting to see how winter is across the nation, and we'll have, of course, Mike on more tomorrow morning, and Tucker, hopefully whenever he can sit down with me to talk about the patterns, because it'll be interesting to see how this winter is different from other ones. We were talking about how it's record-breaking today and this week in Raleigh, North Carolina, so the Raleigh-Durham area. If you guys know the Research Triangle there, they have not seen this cold temperature since 1880 or something like that. I'm like, throwback to the 1800s. It's insane to think.
That sounds funny. Sorry.
It's insane to think that area of North Carolina is
throwback to the 1800s. That's a new one for this year.
It's a big record.
Throwback to the 1800s, guys.
But I'm telling you, earlier this morning, the governor of New York, Governor Cuomo, had some words on how he's keeping things safe in the storm, and we heard from Mayor Bill de Blasio as well, talking a little more about the precautions that they're taking. It's a lot. New York, you know, they just got through a really bitter cold New Year's. They were really proud of, you know, how police and stuff handled all that, and now they're seeing the storm. So, you know, it's important to know how to stay safe in the storm and to stay safe in the snow. We have a lot of commuters here on foot. Same there. We have a lot of subway takers, metro takers. Let's see if I can cue up this video of Andrew Cuomo, what he had to say from New York City in just a second. But hopefully we have the White House briefing coming up for you. If it does not show up on time, we don't get footage of it, we'll just roll on without it.
And chances are we'll have it on our Facebook page, guys.
Yes,
so if you miss it on here, you
do.
can always head over to Fox 5 DC's Facebook page, and it will be there.
Yes. Let's see if I can cue this up. Yeah, so again, if you missed some of that stuff, there's some politics on the stream as well, and some other coverage. We sat down a little bit with Tom Fitzgerald, to talk about, he's covering that story, the President Trump, Steve Bannon comments. So that's sort of what he's talking about today. So he gave us a few words on that, and it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of you guys out there are going to read the book.
Are you going to read the book?
I don't know. I don't know.
It takes me forever and a day to read a book, so my answer is no.
You're like, I have a big
but
list.
If they have it in Audibles, perhaps.
Oh,
maybe,
that's a good
right?
one. It's a good app.
Yeah, I love Audibles. And plus, I think it's like if you sign up, you get you get 3 free credits, meaning you get 3 free books. So just a little tidbit out there if you haven't signed up just yet. You can always get it for free.
Gotta love it.
So it works out.
The digital world.
Gotta love it. Yeah.
So I'm looking at, you can't see it, but I'm looking at the screen of all these videos coming in with different snowy footage. Yeah, I mean, we got the White House right here. Not your typical look, although I will say there were flurries earlier. Now you just see the snow covered ground. That's the cold, snowy look of DC right now. And then we have a couple of videos coming in. I'm going to bring you the words from the governor of New York and what he had to say this morning about what to expect in this nor'easter, juxtaposed with a shot of Philadelphia, and maybe we'll flip around for some other snowy shots. But we'll bring you that for now, and then we'll see if the White House briefing pops up. And if not, we'll come back to you guys and close it out for the day. But stay on with us here, guys. Here's Andrew Cuomo in New York this morning.
So when there's a problem upstate, we can shift to upstate. When there's a problem downstate, we can shift to downstate. And that's what we've done here. The MTA is no stranger to these situations. They took precautions over the past several days, knowing the storm was coming. They stored trains. They have all sorts of sophisticated equipment. But then again, at the end of the day, you're dealing with trains that travel on tracks. Some of those tracks are exposed to snow. They have electrical components. It's cold. It's frigid. And mechanical situations, mechanical systems tend to break down. So it's not even a question of preparedness at one point. Mother Nature can bring a severity that is beyond your control. Period. Same thing with clearing of the roads for the Department of Transportation. Same thing with the Port Authority. You have runways. The runways have to be clear. If the runways are not clear, you now have a danger for air travel. And we have a constant balance that we're trying to weigh between keeping everything open so businesses are open and people are going to work and the economy is running. On the other side of the scale is public safety. And you don't want to bring out the public in situations where there could be danger to human life. Somebody said to me this morning, well, it can't be that bad because you didn't close the roads and you didn't close the subway. There have been situations where we have closed the subway and closed the roads. Those are extreme situations. Those are situations where the threat to public safety overwhelms the damage to the economy by closing down the subway and the road system. That does not mean because the roads and the trains are running that it is a situation that is especially safe or easy. This state of emergency means unless it is essential for you to be out on the roads and moving around today, you should not be. And it becomes a question of common sense for New Yorkers. If there is something you have to do today and you have no viable alternative, then you should know you are putting yourself in a situation of risk and other people in a situation of risk. One car gets stuck on the roads, as I mentioned before, you make it virtually impossible to clear those roads. One accident, you now need an ambulance, you need a police car, and you subject all those people to danger. So common sense, err on the side of caution. The situation is going to get worse as the day goes on. It's going to get worse the further east we go. With that, I'll turn it over first to Mr. Rick Cotton to talk about the Port Authority, and then we'll go from there. Rick?
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. All of the region's airports at JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark are open, but they are operating at highly restricted flight capacity. But there are very, very significant flight cancellations. 2/3 of all flights across the 3 airports have been canceled. It varies by airport. At LaGuardia, 95% of flights have been canceled. At Newark, 70% of flights have been canceled. And at JFK, just under 27% of flights have been canceled. All 3 airports are at their highest level of staffing and at their highest level of snow alert. There are thousands of tons of salt and sand have been stockpiled. At each of the airports, high levels of staffing are now in effect at JFK. More than 270 staff are totally devoted to snow clearance and emergency activities. More than 100 at LaGuardia, and more than 100 at Newark. With respect to bridges and tunnels, driving conditions are extremely hazardous. Speed restrictions have been imposed, 25 miles an hour at the Staten Island crossings, 35 miles an hour at the George Washington Bridge. Again, staffing is at the highest alert level. More than 100 pieces of snow removal equipment is in operation, and stockpiles in advance have been put in place with respect to sand and salt. Buses, long-distance buses, there are a heavy number of cancellations. Virtually all buses to the south have been canceled, and everyone should check with their carrier in terms of buses headed to other destinations. With respect to PATH is operating normally overnight. Preventive conditions have been put into effect so that switches, third rail have been heated, anti-freeze trains have been running, and at this moment all of the PATH trains are operating near or close to schedule. Once again, the highest levels of staffing are in place with respect to snow removal, both in terms of the tracks and with respect to the stations.
Thank you, Mr. Coffin. We'll ask Joe Loda, Chairman of the MTA, for an update.
Thank you, Governor. As the Governor mentioned, we began our preparations last night, and we've done this before, and successfully last night we were able to get an enormous amount of our equipment underground, which resulted in most people seeing a slowdown in the number of express trains that we had, but we were fully running our normal service, and we will continue to do that throughout the day. We've got on the, as was mentioned in the Port Authority's case, we also have switch heaters as well as third rail heaters out there for all of our systems, including both underground and above ground. Regarding our buses, we've got 2,000 buses that are currently operating with chains on them. You'll see less articulated buses. You'll still see some. Those are the larger buses that bend in the middle because they're not, during an icy situation, they're not overly, the right thing to have on the road. So you will see a little bit less number of bus service going on, but still continue to see it running. Look, to protect the fleet from any further icy conditions, we will still be housing our assets underground as much as we possibly can. On the Long Island Railroad this morning, we had a successful morning. We had certain scattered delays, but everything was working fine. Overnight and this morning we had patrol trains running along the tracks to clear them up, as well as heating the switches all the way across. We currently have a situation out in Farmingdale right now where a patrol train is on the side of a track, not at all impacting any of our regular revenue service that's going on, and it's on the side and it's been disabled. It'll be fixed in time for our rush hour. Metro North is also working. We've got a full complement of employees up there. We're having a wind situation on the Hudson line, so some of our stations are being bypassed because of trees that have come down. They're being fixed as we speak. In addition to that, I encourage everyone to look at our website, mta.info, or our various apps, Subway Time and Train Time, to look at the schedules and to see what's going on, because it's changing from moment to moment. But we're fully prepared, and we're doing everything we can to clean up the tracks, clean up the ice, so that we will have as close to a normal situation on our evening trips as possible. Regarding the bridges and tunnels, as Rick Cotton mentioned for the Port Authority, we also are having restricted speeds on many of our bridges, and specifically the Verrazano Bridge, our restrictions have gone a little bit deeper and further. We're restricting trucks as well as tractor-trailer trucks and motorcycles from being on the bridge at this time. We're experiencing very, very high winds on that bridge. We're also experiencing high winds on the Henry Hudson Bridge, and we have very restricted traffic speeds going on right there. And then finally, regarding paratransit, for those folks who need the accessible rides and accessible vehicles, we have 1,200 paratransit vehicles that are currently fitted with snow tires and chains. And if you're in the need of that, please call the call center. They'll be able to help you with any paratransit needs. And again, I want to thank our customers this morning for being patient. I also want to thank all of the transit workers and the railroad workers for all the work they've done overnight to prepare us for this. And I would encourage our customers to be safe as you're walking down the steps into the subway, as you're walking up into any of our elevated tracks. Please hold on to the rails. I think it's very important. We've got workers out there cleaning all of our entranceways, but I think it's very important that everybody be as safe as possible as they're going into any part of our system. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to reiterate, this is not a normal snowstorm. There are two weather patterns that have collided. It is snow plus very high gusts of wind. And that changes the situation dramatically. Again, gusts up to 60 miles per hour, that is a serious situation. More serious as you go further east. We have hundreds of pieces of equipment that have been brought down, but there's only so much you can do when you have that kind of wind and snowfall. So diligence, common sense, restraint. I know we're New Yorkers and we're invincible and nothing's going to stop us from doing what we need to do. I get it. I've been on most of the roads in the metropolitan area this morning, and I can tell you it is ugly and it is dangerous and it is slow. So even though we are invincible New Yorkers, a little caution, and if it's unnecessary to go out, today is not the day to be driving around if you really, really don't have to be driving around. Questions?
Is there a specific wind threshold that we might hit that would result in things like bridge closures, transit closures? A specific number that we might hit?
There could be. It's not just a numeric number, it's where that gust is. But the first warning is trucks would be prohibited from going over crossings. If it got truly significant, we'd have to close a bridge. We don't expect that thus far, but again, it's weather, and weather changes. You should know, as an aside, our weather detection system has also been greatly upgraded. We now have what's called a mesonet system. I got into a lot of trouble once when I suggested that the weather forecast may not have been totally accurate on a previous storm. And I had a raft of criticism from weather people who took offense. The weather forecasts come from devices that are located, that are measuring temperature, barometric pressure, etc. We have put in a new weather detection system with hundreds of points of detection. So we now have a much more accurate forecast of what the weather is doing where, right? We talk about Long Island. There is no weather pattern on Long Island. It's eastern Nassau, central Nassau, western Nassau, it's eastern Suffolk. So we have much more specific weather detection equipment through this mesonet system. But at this point, it can change. We don't anticipate closing bridges for vehicles. It is very possible that we would close bridges and some highways to trucks. The normal rule of thumb is sustained winds, 50 miles per hour or over, we close the bridges. But we are not now expecting that level of wind on a sustained level. We're talking about gusts up to 60, but that's different than sustained 50 mile per hour winds.
Is there any possibility, given the strength of the storm that's expected in Long Island, that you might have to cancel the Long Island Railroad train or cut that?
We're not expecting that. We're cleaning the rails as we speak, and we continue to keep them clear as well as de-iced and heated. It's our expectation to run as normal a service this afternoon as possible. We believe we'll be able to do that. We did see a significant reduction in volume on the number of folks who came in this morning. We expect to see that same volume back out again.
You expressed a lot of concern in the State of the State speech yesterday about the homeless. I wonder about your concerns today, as there are still people on the streets in New York City, and we're in a really difficult weather situation.
Well, look, as you pointed out, Marcia, one of the great disappointments for me is the homeless situation in general and the rise in the number of homeless in New York State, especially in our cities. Reason it's especially sad, I started many, many years ago, as you probably read in the history books, when I was in my 20s, I started working for the homeless. And the whole assumption was that it was a temporary situation. Nobody could imagine that you would actually have homeless people on the streets for a long period of time. This was an anomaly. Well, now it's turned out to be a constant situation. When we have situations like today with freezing weather, cities are instructed to take additional precautions and procedures and bring people in for their own good because their life is at risk. And for a homeless person to be on the streets, now they're putting their own lives in danger. And cities, including this city, have procedures to bring the homeless in sub-freezing weather, certainly today. Oh yes, the procedures should be in place to bring all homeless people from the streets into shelters.
Governor, the temperatures are expected to drop considerably this weekend, and I'm wondering if that complicates things or means that there's even more urgency in terms of clearing snow today, tomorrow, because what happens when those temperatures plummet and there's a lot of snow on the ground? What does that mean for the roads and for the transit system as well?
Yes, yes, and yes. The snow is a problem today. The wind plus the snow is a problem today. Temperatures are forecasted to drop dramatically, and that will then compound the first two problems. And when the weather drops, especially for a situation like the MTA or the Port Authority, equipment starts to freeze, you can't clear the track, electric signals literally freeze. Plus, there's a practical reality to this. You have a power outage, there's snow, there's wind, there's frigid temperatures. It makes it harder for the repair crews to get there to do the actual work. So that would be a compounding negative on all of this. Joe, you want to add anything on that, or Rick?
We have, as Rick has mentioned, and I mentioned as well, the number of switch heaters we have out there, as well as third rail. You know, we have 1,600 third rail heaters right now and working, and we're going to continue to see them working throughout, the next couple of days to prevent any particular slowdown. We've been de-icing the rail and the tracks, and then the biggest concern I have is for the elevated part of the subway system, basically in the northern part of the Bronx or out in the Rockaways. And that's why I encourage everybody to look at mta.info on our website to look and see if there are any delays going on. And also, we've been we're prepared if necessary to have buses to be put in place to help folks anywhere along the way where there are any impairments.
But Grace, I talk about common sense because there's no mystery here, right? You look at the train system; they are metal tracks with boxes that have electrical equipment in them that are exposed to the elements. Well, we have track heaters and switch heaters, etc. Yes, but when you have snow and wind and frigid temperatures, those systems break down. They're just electrical systems. In the case of the MTA, many of them are old and outdated, and they break down, and that's what causes delays. So that should be anticipated.
What exactly does the state of emergency mean? Does it give the state extra powers? Can you told people? What can you do? Because
State of emergency gives the state exactly that. Emergency power for it basically waives regulations and gives us ability to do things that we couldn't do without regulatory approval or legislative change. We can contract directly. We can deploy personnel directly. We can move equipment from one place to another. It gives us additional authority over local governments. We can override local governments' rules and regulations. In the past, under an emergency order, we've put in place the same travel ban for the entire metropolitan area, for example. Otherwise, you have Nassau decides one policy, Suffolk decides one policy, New York City decides one policy. That doesn't really work, because if you're allowed to drive in Nassau, but you're not allowed to drive in Suffolk, what does that mean? Everyone's going to stop at the Suffolk border, or everyone's going to stop at the Queens Midtown Tunnel? So in situations like that, where it's not practical to allow one locality to make these decisions, the emergency order allows us to override the locality's decision-making and put in place a uniform travel ban, travel conditions, etc. We're going.
All right, guys, thanks for sticking on with us here on our stream today for Fox 5 Live. You're looking at a live look right there of New York City's Midtown. Those were some words just moments ago from Governor Andrew Cuomo, actually from this morning, outlining some of the procedures they're taking to keep people safe in New York. And you can see lots more snow there than here. We definitely saw more of a dusting and really a light winter storm here in D.C. And reporting from Fox 5 D.C., we had Cori Coffin, who was out in Ocean City with quite the adventure overnight, stayed out there and then reported in the early mornings of the morning hours today about what it looked like there. But hey, this is what it looks like right now in Manhattan, and I want to say it looks probably even worse in New England. The whole sort of New England area, eastern seaboard, is getting hit with snow today, and we'll have to see where the fallout comes after that from this week. But with that, guys, we're going to take it back into the newsroom. I want to thank you for hanging out on our stream. I'm Molly Nivola here with Fox 5 Digital. We're so happy to bring you breaking news and live events every day from 11 to 2 o'clock today. If you are interested, we're going to keep doing snow coverage. I'm going to leave you with this shot of New York. It's just so astounding. You can see the plow going by right here. Check it out. There it is, right outside of Fox headquarters there in Midtown Manhattan. So with that, guys, thanks so much for joining us, and have a great day. If you missed some of our coverage and you want to see more of the stuff that we covered on snow, weather, we did some politics today and some other, we had some other sort of chats from around the newsroom. You can check it out when this stream stops. We're going to bring it down and you can check it out. But definitely do join me another day. We're up, like I said, midday here on our Fox 5 Live channel here on YouTube. So join us, be part of our channel, and you can chat with us too in the chat box. So thanks for coming on today, guys. Stay safe, stay warm. We'll see you tomorrow, same time.
Audio.